All right, we are live. And today we are going to look at the Legion Go. And in full disclosure, this came in free of charge from Lenovo, and we'll have a review of this soon. But what I wanted to do today was play around with it a little bit, and I had some things that I wanted to install on it, and I also wanted to take it apart. So we're going to start with the taking apart part, and then kind of go from there. So that is the plan for today. And let me just check in and make sure we are live. So I am streaming out. I just don't know if we have any viewers yet. Let's take a look and see. I have one comment, so somebody saw this. Okay, that's good. We have one viewer. And now I got 33 viewers. Perfect. All right, so now we're getting going here. Kenny is our first one in, who says that's a big boy. Yeah, this thing is large and in charge. I'll give you the view of it. It's an 8.8-inch device, so it's big. And again, in full disclosure, Lenovo provided this free of charge to the channel, but they're not reviewing or approving anything before it gets uploaded. And while we're waiting for people to come in, I guess I can give you like the rundown on what it has. And I'll have a review of this. This is probably going to go for at least an hour, if not longer, depending on what kind of trouble we run into. So if you are tuning into this and want something more concise, I will have a review up sometime this week. So let me take in some questions, and then we'll carry onward here. And my vMix social thing is not working properly, so I'm missing questions. Let me turn it back on here. There we go. Okay. So now I can see some questions, and I can start answering them. David Bound is here. Yeah, things are good. And yes, it's actually got some crazy stuff. So from a hardware standpoint, what this has inside, this is essentially, from a hardware perspective, the same as the Asus ROG Ally. So this is more powerful than the Steam Deck. It's got a bigger screen than both. The display on this is 144 hertz. I've got a link to it in the video description, an affiliate link, so you can go and see all the specs there. But here's a couple of things that I like about it. And I've had it now for like the last, I don't know, about 5 or 6 days. But there's a couple more things I wanted to do, and that's why I'm streaming today, just to kind of get caught up on them. So here's what I like about it. It is bigger, so that's an issue. I mean, it's really big. It's a lot bigger than the Steam Deck. I don't have the Steam Deck down here with me, but it's definitely bigger than the Steam Deck. I'll power it on real quick here. It has Hall effect sticks. But the problem is that they have a huge dead zone at the moment. So that's my biggest gripe with it so far, is that it's got a very large dead zone. And I don't know if you saw my video I did of the 8BitDo controllers the other day. The 8BitDos are, they have practically no dead zone. You can set a larger one if you want. So I think they can fix that. We'll figure it out. CM is here. Roman is here. This one's running Windows, Roman. I know you like the Linux stuff. Dustin is here. Jack Bear is here. Patrick is here. Trap Exit is here. We got lots of friends joining us today. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with notifications. They just don't work. And I'm assuming you've clicked the bell, right? I found on YouTube sometimes like it takes a little bit of time and then they do it, but I'll get a little closer here for you. So it is Windows, but what it does is it boots up to this screen here, and then you can kind of jump to games that are already installed. So I only got 2 installed. I think I may have another 1 or 2. I'm not sure. I tried to get Starfield working on it. It doesn't. Like, it crashes. And so here's what I like about it. Then we'll get into taking it apart. What I like about it is that it has Hall effect sticks. So if they could fix the dead zone, which I mentioned earlier, I think they'd be awesome. So I think it's fixable, but right now the dead zone is rather large on these. A couple other things that I like about it. It has two USB 4 ports. It's got one on the bottom and one on the top. And these are essentially Thunderbolt ports. So this is 40 gigabit per second USB 4. So if you were to plug in an external GPU, it will, guess what? Let you plug it in. You could dock a GPU to it. So that's pretty neat. I have not seen the Ghostbusters logo, but this the new trailer for the new movie came out today. So, and it is like an oversized Switch for sure. And actually, it does a lot of things that the Switch does, and some things it does better. So here's one other thing I like about it. Check it out. It's got a kickstand in the back. See that? So the ROG Ally came with this cardboard stand. So it has a kickstand, so you can prop it up. It comes with a case, nice hard case. And then you can detach the controllers. So let's try that real quick. So we're going to go on the bottom here. I forgot where the switch is for it. They don't come off easily. There's like a switch here. I'll give you the overhead. There's a switch here on the bottom, and you kind of push it down, and there you go. Detach the that comes off now. Now that I figured it out, it comes off easier. And the sticks, by the way, have batteries in them, so they will work when they're detached. Oops, that was the one that comes off a little harder. They do work when they're detached. The problem is, I would love for them to have some kind of mechanism so you could attach them together, because the Switch has that. See, they kind of just sit separate from each other. But you could use any game controller with it if you want. And you essentially get this little 8.8-inch tablet. Isn't that cool? But the sticks, the whole thing works, and just works wirelessly. But here, it's hard to. I'll show you the game controller thing in a minute. So it's good stuff. Hey, Michael Skinner is here. Long time no speak. Cost on this is $699, and that's with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigabytes. And Michael brings up a point that drives me crazy about YouTube, which is that I get this all the time where people are like, I haven't seen you in years. Suddenly you're here. And I've been uploading 3 or 4 days a week, if not more, nonstop. And my subscribers never see anything because of the stupid algorithm. So hit the bell. I don't know what good it's going to do, but hit the bell. That might help. Yeah, and Kenny's like, I hit the bell and I still don't get notified. So that is it. And these are connected with a let's see what these are connected with here. These are connected with like a snap-on thing. So when you snap it in, I think, let's see if I can get them back on now. Yeah, they snap in. But I think they do connect with the Pogo, because what they do when they're connected is you'll hear it reconnect like it's getting a new connection. So it reconnects, and I think it does it through the Pogo. So that's how that works. Jeff is wondering, how does it connect to the Ally and the Steam Deck? So, or how it compares to the Ally and the Steam Deck. So it is the same performance as the Ally, but it has a bigger display with 144 hertz. That's what it has there. So it is a little better on the display side. Same performance as the Ally. I did benchmark this with the 3D Mark stuff, but that is that. And Eric wants me to play some Pong. We'll get to that in a little bit. Oh yeah, so by the way, here's the other neat thing that it's got. So on this controller, let me detach this attach it again. On this controller, there's a switch. When I flick the switch here, this becomes a mouse, and it goes into FPS mode. And what I have to get, let me get the thing out of the, so they have this little, let me show you this thing. they have this thing. And we put it in like this. And now it's in FPS mode. I got to remember which way to hold it. Yeah, there we go. So then there's a button on the front. That's your mouse button here on the front. So it's kind of like a mouse, but it works like a joystick. And the sensor is on the bottom here. So it's actually an optical mouse sensor, Roman. So Waldeck is here. How do you get it going in Windows 11 mode? So very simple. All you got to do is just swipe up from the bottom and you got Windows. So this is just a like a launcher, because Windows does not have a very good way to launch stuff. And you can actually quit this if you want. So you can exit that and just get right to Windows. And it puts it into like the Windows 11 tablet mode, which, by the way, is not great. But I've got a few things installed on here now. Oh, you can pop the thumbstick off? How do we do this? Pop it. Oh, yeah, look at that. It comes right off. OK. And now I broke it. Let's see if I can get it back on. It's got like a one-way ticket there. OK. Oops. Now I'm not going to be able to get this thing back on. We'll figure it out. So I think as handhelds go, I think it's pretty good. It addresses a lot of the things that the other handhelds on the market have missed, at least the mainstream ones. And for me, the biggest thing is that it does support USB 4 devices. So we can try to plug in my external GPU in a little bit if we want. So I have an NVIDIA GPU. I think it's NVIDIA over there. I think it's a 1070. And then you've got that. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it isn't all that heavy. And what we're going to do is open it up in a minute and see what we can do as far as the storage is concerned, because I'm pretty sure it's got some upgradability to it. Yeah, I'll see what I can do on what to put it on. What I try to do is like, what settings can I get to like a 60 FPS kind of experience? And I am getting a little nervous about the Dolphin emulator. Nintendo recently said that they are going to start copyright striking channels that have the Dolphin emulator in them, which I don't think is right, but. And I think the intended customer of this is probably a Steam Deck target that wants more. And you know, it's funny because, remember, we've had handheld PCs for a while now. They've been largely made by companies that are smaller in size, right? So I'm thinking of the GPD handhelds, which were awesome. They're still making handhelds. But I think the AMD Z1, which is what this has the Z1 Extreme, like the ROG Ally has. And they, that's good. I have another good question we'll try to answer in a second. It has the Z1 like the ROG Ally has, which is good enough for a good amount of AAA gaming, although very few games are going to get to the 144 hertz that the display can support. Now, I had another question here. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. I just saw a question I wanted to answer. So can you use the bottom USB-C when you've got the kickstand up? Probably not. So the port is right here. So I guess you could get one of those right angle plugs. That might work. But it's probably better if somebody makes a docking station for it. And I would not be surprised if we see a docking station from somebody very soon with this. So other ports that it has, in addition, so you got two USB 4 40 gigabit ports, essentially Thunderbolt ports. You got your micro SD card slot here, you got your fan exhaust here, headphone, microphone jack, your power button, and the controller has buttons all over the place. And I'm constantly hitting them by accident. And it is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. And I don't like to clean things up before I do videos, so that's why you'll see fingerprints when I do stuff. And yeah, I haven't. I've played a few games on it. The speaker didn't offend me. What did I do? Didn't offend me all that much, but I could see how people may not like the speakers on it. Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second here. Let me go and get this thing opened up. So let's first, before we do anything else, let's see if we can open it up. Oh, here's a good question from Kenny. First of all, thank you very much for the super chat, Kenny. Question is about eGPUs. Seems dead. I haven't seen any new ones recently. So I think, and I might be mistaken about this, but I think as far as eGPUs are concerned, a lot of people do it themselves. So the one that I have over there, which I'll get out in a minute, that one is one that I bought the box and I bought the card and put them together. So one of the things about Thunderbolt, which is really cool, is that you get essentially a PCI Express slot that you can connect externally. So for the local high school that I work with on video production stuff, we got an eGPU Thunderbolt box, but instead of a eGPU, we put a Blackmagic capture card in there to do 4-way SDI capture. So you have a couple different options for that. All right, let's see if we can take it apart. Oh, here, we'll do one for Roman here real quick. Wants to see the different backgrounds. So let's take a look and see what backgrounds it has. The display looks really nice on it. I don't think it's OLED because it is 144 hertz. But let's go to personalization here. So it's got kind of like your standard Lenovo ones. Here's another one here. I don't know if this, yeah, one looks like it might be, that one looks pretty cool. And there's a few that are on my account, probably from other computers that I've reviewed. So like this is like the Windows dark. That one looks. I've always liked this one. I'm not sure what that looks like. Flower petals or something, but. Then there's this one. That one's pretty cool. I think that's from another Lenovo computer that I looked at. Kind of reminds me of Pringles, the potato chips. But yeah, it's a full-on Windows tablet, essentially. So you got a few different backgrounds there. And I agree. I think the Vita is a very cool-looking system. Yeah, this is a good question from John. I think this is kind of what they're experimenting with in the marketplace. What's been interesting about this, and when I was, so they had an event, a launch event in New York City where I got to get hands-on with it for the first time. And I paid my own way for that, by the way. And the first thing that came to mind was this prototype that Dell or Alienware had on display in CES 2020, like right before the pandemic broke out. They had essentially a full-on portable system like this. All right, let's see if we can get this thing taken apart real quick. And it was very similar in what it looked like, except it was running with an Intel processor. Now, my understanding is that if we pop off these 6 screws, we should be able to, I think, access the storage. And one of the things that I think might be fun, and I may not do this in my initial review, I might come back and do something later on it. If you have an external GPU attached to this, it can make a killer vMix machine. If we're doing the stream, for example. All right, let's open it up here. Gotta find the right size screws. Very tiny little screws here. Don't want to strip anything either. No, it's still too big. Let's see if I can find the right screw. And I left I just got glasses, by the way, which I left upstairs. So I'll suffer through this. It's still a little too big. Let's see. Let's go down one more. Yeah, that's perfect. And we'll see what we got. Hey, Seanflay98 is here. Good to see you, my friend. Have I ever tried 5.1 music through Plex? You know, I haven't. Do you have any good recommendations for where I could find some of that? That sounds like it might be kind of fun to listen to. I'm assuming it's like lossless 5.1. And thank you for the super chat, by the way. All right, this goes here. And this goes here. Yeah, I think you're right. Best place to start prying is under the kickstand. I wonder if there's more screws under there. I probably could use the kickstand just to lift it off. I've got a spudger underneath all this stuff in here too, so we could do it that way if need be. But I will say this feels easier to get into than the Steam Deck does. And Lenovo's been pretty good on their gaming devices, at least, about making them relatively accessible for entry. All right, not coming up just yet. I thought I'd get lucky with it just that way, but there might be a need for some spudging going on here. I think I'm going to spudge up towards the top. Although Handquake says I should try under the kickstand. Okay, so maybe we'll try that first. Yeah, I see what you mean by that. And my spudger might be in my other toolbox. I may have to go and get that in a minute. You would think it would just lift up like this, right? But yeah, let me get my other spudger before I break something. This is the fun part about watching me on these streams. So I'm always bound to destroy something or break it. You never know how it's going to turn out. All right, let's see what we can do here. So, hey, our Sam, our friend from Down Under, is here. And he upgraded his Steam Deck, which now has, he says, 2 terabytes. Was that hard to do? There we go. Oh, we got it now. That was a good tip. It's pretty easy to get it spudged here. Okay, now it's coming up. Perfect. And we'll record some B-roll here in a minute too. As many of you know, I'm not the most handy person, so these are always fraught with risk as we work on this stuff. All right, so let's get on the top here. All right, we're getting there. It's always good to exercise patience when you're working on these things. So you don't want to break something. Okay, it's feeling loose, but it's not yet coming up. Oh, I just turned it back on. Shoot. Hang on a second. Let's make sure it doesn't come back on first before I take it apart. Yep, there it goes. All right, let me just turn it off real quick. I hit the switch. This is what happens when I work on these things, right? Let's shut down. So Kenny says he would have broken it already. And yes, it is definitely a fingerprint magnet on the back. I can confirm. I have not wiped it down though, so this is what it looks like pretty much after a week or two of, or a little less than a week. And what happens here is that when you get a little bit of it taken up, it then like relatches. So it's a little tricky. So I'm wondering if this was not supposed. I'm guessing it's pretty easy to get into it because they have just one set of screws, but seems to like not want to get up. There we go. Okay. Oh, look at that. Very nice. All right, let me do a little B-roll. Very compact, huh? Look at that. So let's do a little B-roll. So it kind of continues the tradition here of Lenovo gaming devices being pretty easy to get into. All right, so let me just do a little B-roll. So the RAM obviously is not upgradable, but we've got your battery under here, and then your SSD is right here. And what I'm looking for is whether or not there is a Wi-Fi visible, which I do not see. Yeah, I don't see any kind of Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi must be on the board. Oh, I see it right here. It's right there. So the Wi-Fi is one of those little ones, and it looks like it might be soldered on, but the SSD right here, that can be removed and replaced. Yeah, maybe they can do them for me, not me for them. And Joker Wolf, yeah, you know what's funny? I bought the ROG Ally, thinking that it was going to be, thinking that I would prefer it to the Steam Deck, and I did not prefer it to the Steam Deck. I actually got rid of it. Twofold. One, I did not like the controls on the ROG Ally, and the other was that I feel like the Steam Deck is just better suited for its form factor. So you know what I mean? Like the operating system is designed to be handheld, whereas here, and you'll see this as we're playing around with it, you know, they have their own launchers and stuff, which are fine, but it's not as good as a system that's designed for handheld usage. All right, I think we're back together here. So now we're going to just put the screws back in, and then we'll play some games. So everybody doing good today? Everybody feeling okay? We have about 101 watching right now. People love watching me take things apart because you never know what's going to happen. We haven't put it back together yet. You never know. But this was relatively easy to get into. So I think the only thing you're going to be able to do on this is swap out the storage. Now this one is the 1 terabyte version. So they have the 512 is the one you'll see in the link. That one is $699. This is a little bit more with a terabyte. But you could probably just get your own SSD and save some money if you want to do it that way. I don't think there's any difference in configuration other than the storage amount. And you know what's funny with the Steam Deck? And here's so here was my thing with the ROG Ally additionally, was that it has a 1080p display, but it's the same size as, and you'll see on this one when I get it back together, this display is bigger. It's 8.8 inches versus 7. And it's significantly larger. And one of the things that I noticed with the ROG Ally was that the screen was the same size as the Steam Deck. So you didn't really, at that small a screen, at 7 inches, you don't really notice the uptick in resolution all that much. Like the Steam Deck games look great because it's on a small screen at 720p. So you have a lot of pixel density. So this one, they provided free of charge to the channel, in full disclosure. So typically Lenovo lends these out. For this one, they gave them to the reviewers. And I'll probably do a couple of things with it. You know, the obvious one is the gaming use case. But I'm curious as to what we might be able to do, what else we might be able to do with it, because it is a pretty portable small PC with I think a lot of horsepower. And I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of like video production. You know, for example, could we run vMix on it? Which I think is, I know the answer to, which is yes. There's no webcam on here either, by the way. There's a sensor for the display, but no camera, which is not unusual for these gaming laptops. All right. All right, I think we're good. It looks like I didn't break it. All right, we're good. Let me just get my password in there, my PIN code. NJS has, you know, as a matter of fact, I have NDA'd to SanDisk, and it did not take that long at all. In fact, they were very quick about getting my stuff, my replacement. In fact, it was an SD card, though. It wasn't a hard drive. But I think this was before the takeover, when they went to WD. And I just hit the one problem with this thing, there's buttons all over the place, and I constantly hit the buttons. Because they're like, you can't pick it up without touching a button. All right, so let's take it from the top here. So what we've got, yeah, I think you're right, Michael. And actually, this one kind of is that, because Game Pass is obviously available on here. So right now on here, I just have installed Xbox and Steam. So if I go to the Xbox Game Pass thing, I do have Starfield on here, but it's not playable. I installed new drivers. Here, I'll show you what happens. What ends up happening with it is that it just locks up and crashes. So maybe one of you can help me with this. But you can kind of see the issue here, right? Like you have these Windows things that pop up. This is a Windows application, so we had to jump. We jumped out of the Lenovo launcher over to yeah. So this doesn't have a trackball mode necessarily, but it does have a trackpad, which a Steam Deck, I guess, has as well. Oh, you know what I got to do? I got to put it back into regular mode. There we go. Okay. All right, so now I switch that back to gamepad mode. So here's what happens. Now, let me show you the settings that I have on this. Let me do the overhead. It'll be a little easier to look at. So if I go to the settings, and I go over to display. So my only option here is to run it in borderless full screen, because I thought it would be great to demo Starfield running on this. It's a popular game. It's very demanding, as you all know. So I could turn this off, but then it's running it in a window. Like I can't run it full screen at a lower resolution, because I would love to just get it down to 720p, which I can, but it doesn't run full screen. Let me turn that off. I have everything set like super low on here. Now, if I set it back to borderless full screen on, then it's like the full res. See that? It goes, oh, I guess maybe not. Let's see. So I turn that on, and now it's 12. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see if it runs here. I don't think it did what I thought it did. Now, I've been jumping back between the Xbox version and the... Did it crash again? Yeah, it crashed again. It crashes a lot. This is the only game that I found that doesn't really behave very well. Yeah, so here's the other thing. I updated the drivers. It keeps telling me that my drivers are out of date, but I downloaded the most recent AMD drivers for it. So I don't know what it wants. And yeah, these are just like X input, but they do have extra buttons. So I don't know if I haven't had to like remap anything. And there's actually no way to configure the controllers. And that's my other gripe with it. So look how much dead zone there is. Isn't that crazy? it's got way too much dead zone. I guess so what they recommend is that you do it in the control interface here. So that might be contributing to it, but I would really like it to have a system-wide dead zone setting. All right, so let's go to continue here and see if this works. I think it's going to freeze up on me again. Yeah, it crashed again. So I don't think, I've tried everything to get this game working. So I'll do one other setting, which is to go back to what it was like before and see what we get. And I have not played RoboCop. Is that on Game Pass? To be honest with you, like ever since I got Game Pass, I don't buy games on the PC all that much. I think the last game I bought was Dave the Diver. I'm having a lot of fun with Dave the Diver. I don't know if you ever played that game, but it's actually a lot of fun. So Matthew says it's definitely the Legion Go because it can play on the Z1 Extreme. So I've got to go ask around on this one. And I will show you the calibration in a second, too. All right, so let's try this again. So I'm going to go back to Settings, go to Display. Now turn this off. OK, so now it's back to 2560 by 1600, which I think is the native resolution of the display. And then the dynamic resolution I'll set on, because there's no way this game is running at that resolution without some assistance. So if I jump back here and go to continue, it may just crash completely again. Because it was working with this setting before, but I think it's going to crash again. Yep. So much for that. All right, so let's load up something else. So I've got my other favorite game here. And this is where you get into issues, like, for example, the EA thing. So if you download from Game Pass an EA game, you've got to install the EA launcher and then log into that. And then you're hooking up keyboards to get all your stuff configured. Like, it becomes a real pain in the tuchus. Oh, RoboCop's on GeForce now. Yeah, but you have to own the game, right? So how much is RoboCop? Is it like 60 bucks? Because I've been hearing people talk about that. So I think if your intention is to do Steam Link, from your phone or from the Legion Go to your phone, it could do it. It could totally do it. All right, now why is my controller not responding here? All right, hang on a second. There it goes. All right, play game. And then we'll load up my save game here. I got nervous because my Steam thing screwed up synchronizing my No Man's Sky game. I was very nervous about that. Is this going to crash too? Did I break it? No, there we go. I don't know. I think it depends on how it sells ahead of Black Friday. Lenovo often does discount, so I would look there. I don't know with this product if they will do that, just because it's kind of a unique thing. And I'm not sure how many of these they actually made either. I think they're maybe testing the waters with it. But the problem with this thing, like when you think about using it as a handheld, so I picked this up in New York City, and it was in a box larger than my backpack, and I had to lug it on the subway. And they also, I also got a pair of their glasses, which I will do a separate review of. They're not AR glasses. They are glasses that you basically get a screen with. And my issue with those is that I need to get special lenses that match my eyeglass prescription to really give it a fair shake. So I'm going to go run over to my eyeglass store later this week and see if they can make something for me. I like GOG. No DRM. I'm an anti-DRM guy these days, as many of you know. Yeah, so my problem with the EA app right now is that like whatever password I had apparently isn't working properly anymore. So that's been problematic. Now what happens with this game is it takes a second for it to kind of, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, here I am. So it takes a second for it to kind of initialize, and then once it's good, it gets better. Now if you push this button here on the top, you'll get a little control panel, because I can pull up a, so right now we're at 1920 by 1200. Oops, what happened? We're at 1920 by 1200. And what I'm going to do here is turn on the frame rate counter so we can get the frame rate. Unlike the Steam Deck, did that game crash? No, it's still running. Unlike the Steam Deck, you don't get the power consumption, but it does give you, there we go. So this is running right now. So we're at 1920 by 1200. We're at the standard settings, and we're doing about 65 frames per second, which is actually great. I mean, it looks great. It plays great. And I got to get back in my spaceship here. So let's go back to my spaceship. This is a very toxic radiation planet, so I need to get back in the ship. Yeah, let me turn the volume up a little bit here so we can talk a little bit about the... if I can find my base, which is not far from here. Here it is. So this is where I have my mining operation. So this is where I go to pick up my activated indium. So before they patched the game, like if you went into this, if you found a vein of activated indium, you could make a ton of money, which I did early on in my save file here. So what's happening here is I've got these tanks that I'm going to extract my activated indium from, put in my exosuit, and I'll show you my operation here. So these are the holding tanks. So every so many hours I can come by and pick up more, and these are the miners. So those things are mining the activated indium. The display on this game looks a little darker than usual. I'm not sure. So I'll show you my base, which we've done before. But this is very playable. It runs, at a higher resolution than the Steam Deck at essentially 60 frames per second. So that's been good. Although my controller just locked up. There it goes. All right, so we're going to go to, I call this base Show Me the Money. And we'll warp to that. And QP says the ROG Ally will be on sale for Black Friday for $619. Yes, you'll get the same performance out of it. You just have a smaller display with less resolution. So this is like a 2K display, I think. So you can see like on the Steam Deck, when you push a button to control something, you get, what I mean? It doesn't interrupt the gameplay like this. So it's one of the issues I think that we have with Windows on one of these handhelds. And Joker Wolf does not want to put DRM on his game either. Good for you. And the fan noise isn't bad. It's certainly audible. I have it on its performance setting, which is actually the noisier fan mode, and it's not offensive. I may adjust the gamma settings on this game because apparently we are at the full brightness of the display right now. So the one thing I have to get used to is that your start menu is, or your start button is mapped to the lower section here. Let's go back to the graphics here. I may have the gamma down. Is there a gamma setting? Yeah, here. Oh, it's at 50%. So let me boost the gamma up a little bit. go to 65%. I'll do 70. It's also dusk on my planet here, so that's part of it. And it's not unusual to get a little bit of a glitch on this game when you're first loading in assets. Although I don't get this on my big gaming PC. Look how nice that looks. So right now we are at 40. So this is a more involved setting here. We've got a lot of creatures and stuff going on. So we're about 50. Well, there it goes. About to 60. So, it's going to fluctuate a little bit more. But, it does fluctuate on the Steam Deck too. Although the Steam Deck's a little more consistent because I run it at 720p, right? But again, the dead zones are significant. So here, watch this. Let me do a B-roll of that. See how far it goes? Like, there's a huge... And that seems to be the case everywhere. I'll show you what the thing looks like in a second. But yeah, the fan isn't bad on this. You hear it. But I've heard worse. So I built all this, mostly on my Steam Deck, by the way. When I was putting the kids to bed. So I've got like a nice view here. This looks, by the way, when you play this in VR, it is freaking awesome because you can build your base and then just like walk through it. And then what's cool, if you leave extra landing zones there, like you get these random spaceships that land, and sometimes like a nice one lands and you can buy their ship. Now if I hit this, it's my little teleporter. And now I am underwater. And I built like these tunnels that you can walk through underwater. And there's like 2 levels of tunnels here. This is awesome. And I built this primarily because I wanted to see like what it looked like in VR. And I could actually hop out of here and swim back to my base. See all the fishes. So I can get out and swim here, or I can go down to the... So you can see that's where the tube goes down to the second level, to the lower level. Yeah, it's a little laggy here and there, but otherwise no worse for wear. My oxygen is getting depleted, so we'll go back to... we can hop down here. So I'm still working on this one. I just think it's cool. Like this is my base. It's my home base. And I've got a couple different corridors I can walk down in here. I haven't figured out what else I'm going to do down here. You can have like ocean craft and mining operations and that sort of thing. So. My limited spare time, I work on my base every once in a while. It's like Animal Crossing for sci-fi nuts is what, is what this game kind of is. All right, so here's a question from Razor2048. I wonder, since it uses 16 gigs of RAM, is it artificially capping the shared memory for the GPU use too low? So let's take a look. So we'll pop out of the game here real quick. And let's pull up the task. How do I pull up the task manager while I'm in? I don't have a keyboard. Let's type in task. There we go. All right, so the game is running. And where do we go? Over here? Let's see. Yeah, so it is... Here's the memory settings. You tell me. It's got 6.3 gigabytes allocated with 50% utilized. So you tell me what you think about that. I'll rely on the experts for that. All right, now let's get into the spaceship here too. But yeah, the frame rate definitely is variable here for sure. Here, I'll show you one more thing. We'll get in the spaceship and fly off here too. So my spaceship's awesome. And like I said, like this game in VR is just like amazing. I got to go out this way because it's kind of fun to it's kind of fun to build it on in the 2D environment, or the handheld or the PC desktop environment, and then put on a headset and then experience it. And they really did the VR right on this. It's VR is still imperfect, and I got a Quest 3, and I'm struggling to get things working properly with it. But once you get it dialed in, it's amazing, especially this game, because the sense of scale. Because you look at the ship, it looks big, but you don't really get a feel for how big it is. And certainly you can get some sense because you can see the player against it. But when you're standing next to it, and it looks like three-dimensional, it's just amazing. All right, so let me do another recording here. And what's really cool is when you're in the cockpit of the ship, you can kind of look around, It's all three-dimensional. Yeah, so a bit of frame rate variability, I will say. So I almost feel like there's like some driver optimization that has to happen here. We can go to this planet if we want. All right, somebody wants to talk to us. Let's see what we got here. Sometimes these ships will appear to you as you're flying around. Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of like hangs like this. So right now it's totally frozen. There it goes. So I will say that I don't experience what we're experiencing here with the Steam Deck. But again, I run it at a lower resolution. That's the space station over there. We'll go to this planet. Nope. So temperature right now, it says it is at about 56 C. The VRAM is at 81%. We had actually all the specs right here. VRAM is at 86%, and the temperature again 55 C right now. Battery's at 63%. So the battery life, I think you're going to get your 2 hours like you get on the other ones. Now I'm in performance mode because I want the best performance I can get out of it. What's neat about this is that these planets are fully procedural, and they're huge. So you can land on one, set up shop, and if another player happens to be playing the game and they stumble across you, which is very unlikely, you will see them. It's really neat. Yeah, so here we're about 40-ish frames per second. So there you go. All right, so let's. Oops. See, I'm always hitting that button. I want to hit the start button, but it's down here. So I got to go back over here, hit that, and then quit the desktop. So Ed says, when I try to watch other streamers on different platforms, but it's funny that this is what Ed happens to say, right when it happens, we got hit with the 55-minute streaming problem. But we're back. Crazy. Yeah, it still happens. They just are not going to fix it. It's crazy. Yeah, so I think that's what here's what I think with this thing. I think there's a lot of utility in this form factor for that kind of work, especially for like IT work where you can plug in a little keyboard or something, because you get a full-fledged PC. And the fan noise, I think, is fine. It doesn't sound all that loud to me. It's probably maybe a little louder than the Steam Deck, but yeah, so, hey, there's my friend Kevin. I can bring, you know what, I still have to come visit you, so maybe I'll bring it with me, and I will bring the camera with me whenever you're ready for me. So this one isn't bad. It feels lighter than it should be. The controls feel really light, and then most of the weight is in the middle. But I think what you might find of interest here, Kevin, is that I think this, if you hook up a GPU to it, I think you could do a pretty neat vMix machine with this. And maybe even without one. We'll have to see. All right, so now what I want to try is I want to connect up this keyboard, which does Bluetooth. So rather than download 110 gigabytes of Red Dead Redemption 2, I've got it on this hard drive. So I can just copy it over to Steam. I think that's possible. So let's go through that rigmarole. It'll be quicker to do it this way than it would be to actually go the other route. So I'm going to go and put this into pairing mode here. Turn it on. And then I'm going to go, and you see why I'm hooking a keyboard up, because sometimes you just can't avoid it. Like you need to use the keyboard. So let's go to the Bluetooth settings. And I'm going to add device, Bluetooth. Yeah, I think it'll totally do it. So, and Ed, I think what's happening with this 55-minute thing is it has to do with the fact that I stream in 4K. And Kevin, you might be able to answer this for me. I don't know if you do 4K in what you do, but you're right. The dead zones in the controllers are the deal breaker. Let me show you. Actually, let me show you that real quick, because I think that's a big issue. So I've got this little app. It's free. It's called Game Controller Tester. And there are two versions of it, or two interfaces. I think I hit. Yeah. So this will give you a sense of the dead. So this is like the default. See how far that stick is going before it gets registered? And let me see if the new interface might look a little better. Let's try that real quick. So you see how far I'm moving it before we get registered? Look at that. So I'm like, so nothing, 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 and then it goes. Here, I'm going to zoom this, I'll move this over. Let's see if I can put this window close to that, and I'll zoom in. This will give you a better look at it here. Okay, so. Oh yeah, you could do NDI on this for sure, because I think it's got the video encoding built in. And I believe you could run it from an attached disk, like boot from it. Sure. I mean, it's it's a full-fledged PC, so I was able to do that on the Steam Deck with a Windows to Go installation. And the SD card slot area does not seem to get too hot, because it looks like most of the heat is brought over here. So this area is not terribly hot. As an owner of the Steam Deck, how is it to you in comparison to performance mode? I also have the Steam OS off my deck. It's hard because on the Steam Deck you can run it at 720p, or you do run it at 720p most of the time. So that's the. Okay, so let's try this now. So here's the tester, right? So I'm going to go down with it first. See how far that moves before you get any movement? And not a lot of play here in between. So now I have these are Hall effect sticks, so you should see a lot more resolution here. And I think they're capable of it. I think it's just how they tuned it. But you can see I'm moving it really far before we get. So this, I think, is fixable. Because they are Hall effect sticks, which is great. So they should be, but you can see just how far you have to move it before you get any movement. So it's pretty crazy. So Lazy PC Rehab says his doesn't have that. That's interesting. I don't want to say it's heavier. It might be a little bit heavier, but it feels bulkier. So, hey, DJ Craze is here. Ooh, sorry you had to go through all that. So hopefully you're on the mend here. Hey, my friend Handheld Obsession is here. I knew that if I had a handheld on the channel that you would show up. And Handheld appreciates the larger screen size. You know, I'm with you. I just had to get, they're upstairs. I had to get glasses recently, so I am with you on that. Give me 1 second here. I just got to send a text to somebody. Here, look at this. All right. So now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get the game on this drive copied over. So to do that, I'm going to go to Steam, and it's just easier. It's just easier to navigate with the keyboard than it is the other way. So we're just going to do it this way. So I'm going to go over to Steam. And I'm also going to turn off that overlay for now. Oops, lighting effects. There's different lighting effects. I have to play around with that a little bit too. And you can see I've got it in the thermal mode called Performance. And there's two different modes. So like one is a thermal mode for the processor, the other is the Windows mode. So I've got both in Performance, and that's where I've kind of left it. And it's also like the battery is totally zonking out here. So we're at about 51%. We still got a little bit left in the tank. Isn't it crazy how they misdiagnose stuff? It's like, and it can, you know, I guess it's hard to know all the time what something might be. But and on the flip side, my mom went in for some surgery Monday, and they were out the next day. She had a hernia operation. They kind of rearranged her insides a little bit, and she's doing great. I couldn't believe how quickly she got out. All right, so we're going to go to, hang on, I got to do a special directory here. Add drive. So I have to go, let me choose the location. And I'm going to go to D. And then I've got, so I took the drive that I was used to record onto, and I put it into this enclosure. So that's what's on here now. All right, now we should see. Yeah, so there's Red Dead Redemption. So what I want to do with this is I'm going to do this, and I'm going to move it. And I got to move it, I guess. All right. And we're going to move it to C, just to get it onto the hard drive. So let's see how fast it moves 115 gigabytes. Yeah, this is kind of par for the course. And yeah, you got a good point there. It could almost be like a little 9-inch yoga. I would love to see them make some docking devices for this because I think it's got a lot of potential as a small form factor PC. Ooh, that's interesting. Is it possible to enable Radeon Super Resolution? Yes, I think it does have that setting. And I think I have it enabled. I'll have to see. Yeah, so Lenovo actually has a full-on gaming line. They have the Legion laptops, which have been around for a good long time now. And I really like the Legion laptops. I bought one, and I use it. Believe it or not, I don't use it much for gaming, but I use it for video production. Is what I use that for. And I'll tell you what, the more I use these Windows gaming devices, I go back to the Steam Deck and really appreciate what they put together there because the whole machine is centered around the interface that they designed for it. And although some of the games may not necessarily be designed for a handheld use case, a bulk of the games that I play on my Steam Deck work fine. I never have to interact with the operating system. And here you kind of do have to interact with it. There is, as we saw, and let's wait for this to copy over. As we saw, there is a way that you can set up the launcher to kind of launch your games for you when you load it up. But it's hard not to. All right, there we go. So the content has been moved successfully. So a lot quicker to do that than go the other route. Okay, so now we're going to close this. And let's go back into Steam here. And I'll just load it up. I got to do all the initial installation stuff on it. But you'll get those little notes and windows that pop up as you do stuff. And I don't know. It looks like they must be doing some real-time AI voice recognition. There's a lot of AI stuff going on under the hood across the board. That's crazy. Does it run Crysis? Yes. I think I have Crysis, so we could we can run it on there. And I saw they actually had at the event I was at, they had a Legion 4080 based desktop PC there. So, and this is the first handheld from them. Yeah, yep. And I did update the drivers with AMD. I got the most recent ones on here, and that's what we're running with. All right, we're just waiting for the game to load up. I think what happens here is that, yeah, it goes under the radar there. So give me a second to log into my account here. So I got to do this thing. All right, close that. Everybody's got their own launcher now, right? You got to do all that. Yeah, that's it. It's all about trying to sell you stuff. Oh, so, yeah, where are the spam bots? They haven't been around in a while. I guess maybe their AI is getting better at detecting them, because now what you got is warring AIs, one to try to get around the other one. But the other thing I'm curious about, or I'm excited to share with you, is, and bear with me, I got to type in my password for this thing, is that I've been playing more around with PeerTube, and I know that Chris Allegretta checked it out, and so I've got this really cool setup that I put together where I've got PeerTube running on a $5 Linode installation, and I'm using my NAS in the closet over there as its storage location. I've got a really cool, I set up a Tailscale, and I kind of worked its firewall rules or whatever so that it can only connect to the NAS in there, and it can only connect on the ports that are used for CFIS file sharing. And it's been working great because I've got a gigabit link right back to there. So PeerTube is a YouTube alternative. I don't want to say it's a competitor because it's kind of a self-hosted thing, but if you ever had the need to host your own video, including live streams, it is amazing. And I'm going to do a video on it this weekend, so stay tuned. I'm really impressed with it now that I've been able to figure out how to get it loaded up a lot quicker. So that has made a big difference. Okay, so let's sign in. And I think it's going to let me in now. Yeah, the spam bombs are definitely showing up in the chat, for sure. I will give you that. And Robert says, I was told by a GameStop employee not to buy this unit. You could not download. No, I can assure you it will download games from Steam. I think they just want you to keep buying games in their store. And BB Garnett, yeah, right. Yeah, for a long time, BB Garnett here was accused of being a bot, so much so that he had to change his name so that people knew that he wasn't a bot. Yeah, that still goes on too, doesn't it? It's unfortunate because their business model is not in a good place, right? Oh, we're freezing up again. I got to look at the drivers here. This thing seems to be locking up more than it should. I almost feel like it needs like some big initial firmware update because it's running okay, but it's not stable. Yeah, back to the ATSC topics. Yeah, so I think you're going to see they're making a big push. They want to be able to say that they've released. This thing's totally frozen right now. They want to make a big push to say that they've released a lot of, or they got a lot of tuners out there for the holiday season. The problem, though, is that this is actually totally frozen. So I think what I'm going to do here is hit the hard reset because it is locked up solid. Nothing's working. Yeah, that's where we're at. I'll tell you what, I almost buy, I think I buy most of my Switch games on physical media. And the reason is that they hold their value exceptionally well. So yes, we took it apart a little bit earlier. The NVMe is occupado. I can show you from my teardown earlier. So it is in the lower right-hand corner. You'll see me point to it in a minute. It's in the lower right-hand corner is where the NVMe is. All right, so we are back up now. Let me go back here and type in my PIN number. And I am going to eject the drive that I have connected here. Our battery is down to 38%. Now, in fairness, I have this in its performance mode, so it's going to eat through it pretty quickly. But if you turn the mode down, if you go out of performance to like its balance mode, you're going to lose performance. So that's kind of the trade-off. I can't believe that. I guess I can believe it, but it's sad that they're not selling Blu-rays anymore. All right, so now let's go back to Windows real quick. But you can see how this kind of works, right? You get this thing. So now the drive that I have plugged in doesn't seem like it got recognized when it booted up. Yeah, it's not even showing up there, so I can safely unplug it. And I'm just going to plug power in at the top so we can keep it running here. And there it goes. Okay. I will say I do very much appreciate USB-C power. I think it's awesome. And I have a bunch of games on GOG. I got to get the GOG launcher on here. Do they show you? Let's see. Yep, they got GOG in here, so you can download it and get it linked to that. All right, so let's load Steam back up again, and let's see if I can get this game loaded now. All right. And if this doesn't work, what I might do is look up the Lenovo app and see if they've dropped any driver updates. Part of why I haven't rushed to review this is because I feel like there's a big optimized driver dump that's going to make this thing run better. Because I know what it's capable of, given the fact that it's very similar hardware-wise to or at least inside, to the ROG Ally. So there you go, Hector. See, this is it. You could do that in your home. They're going to make it really hard, but that's what you could do. All right, so here we go again. I got this little window here. Okay, now it looks like the game is actually loading. This happens so I've run this game on a bunch of different computers, and this happens all the time. And I think Steam is the undisputed leader on lean back interfaces, full stop, right? Like it worked. Their interface on the Steam Deck is awesome. And they designed that lean back interface, I think, initially, well, I guess for people that use their PCs, but they also had those Steam machines. Do you all remember that? Those were really cool. Oh, shoot. All right, so let's go do some settings here. No. Are you sure you want to quit? No, I don't want to quit the desktop. I just want to go and get my settings adjusted. So story is left button. And I'm going to go to settings, left stick. And let's go to display. Is it display or graphics? Yeah, display. Okay, so we're going to go, if I can barely see this. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let me go back over here. Hang on. So we're going to go to graphics. And we're going to set this. So right now it's at 720p. I'm going to set it to 1920 by 1200. If it lets me. Yeah, so go full screen, 1920 by 1200, 144 hertz refresh rate, and turn VSync off. And then we're going to just have it set to low. I'll just do whatever it thinks low settings are. All right, so now I'm going to go to Apply Changes A. And we're going to have to restart. So we're going to hit spacebar to restart. What they could really use, maybe AMD's got something like the GeForce Experience that just sets up your settings for that. That would be kind of neat. Okay, now the screen is all out of whack. There it goes. Okay, now it's catching up. And I got a jet in a minute. I wanted to get to the external GPU, but maybe I'll come back and do that tomorrow or the next day. Okay, so let's go to story. And we'll just kind of load up my save game here. All right. So now I'm going to hit this and put our, I want to get our, and it's weird, you got to hit this button twice to get it over here because I need this thing to show up. All right, so what I want to do is I want to pull up my, oops, there it goes again. My frame monitor. There we go. And why is it not full screen anymore? That's weird. But you see what I mean? Like, it drops out of full screen. Let me go back to here real quick. This could be a Red Dead Redemption. Yes, it went from like, that's weird, huh? Okay, so let's go back to apply changes. There we go. Okay. Yes. Okay, I think we're good. Let's try to get this going. Then I got to run. Totally. I think you're absolutely right. $500 is no-brainer, right? It's a little more thought that goes into this price point. And I think the reason why the Steam Deck has been so popular is that they were really smart about it, right? Like all right, so we are running at low settings. The controls are really weird. We are running at low settings at about 37 frames per second at 1920 by 1200. So I think the sweet spot might be getting it down to, I don't know why he's walking so slow. I'm trying to get him to run. So 720p might make sense. And that's the problem when you've got one of these big displays, is that as nice as the display looks, if you've got your games running at lower resolutions and lower detail, you're going to see that difference. Because like the Steam Deck at 720p running this game on a 7-inch display is actually going to look really good because it masks a lot of the imperfections given the pixel density. Right now we're at 45 frames per second. So it's all a matter of how much complexity is in the environment. So now we're down to 41, 36, 33. So it's kind of all over the place. I would say like 30 to 45, which is quite a range. Believe it or not, I have not actually played this game other than to demo it. So I have not even. I think Jake has like played a few. You got him to this point, so we have something to look at. There's a lot of walking around, and there's not a lot in between. Like at least in Grand Theft Auto, you've got like the city, right, and cars you can steal. Like here, you got to get the horse and follow the roads. The level of detail is amazing, though. Okay, so let me just make a couple of notes here. Oops. So, for the performance benchmarks, it's done fine. In fact, it's right up there with the let's say 45 to 60. Let me steal this guy's horse and kind of go to town here. There we go. Let's get moving. So I mean, it's playable. And I would say the frame rate at this resolution is commensurate with what you would get out of the Steam Deck at 720p. And that's what I found on the ROG Ally, is that it would run the games at 1080p, what the Steam Deck would do at 720p. Which you need it for, on this one, for the bigger display. There we go. We got a village here. This I wanted to see here, see how it did on the village. Whoa. And yeah, so we're still around 38 frames per second. But it's not getting laggy like No Man's Sky was, at least, so that's good. So let me do a little more recording here. But I'll tell you what, the display looks great. You know, it's nice and big. The color is nice. The contrast ratio is really nice on it. And we're about 38 frames per second, and that's with rendering in a structure here. Oh, didn't mean to do that, sir. I'm sorry. You know, so playable, and you know, if you turn it down to 720p, you could probably get, you know, into the 60. So it's kind of where a lot of these Ryzen laptops kind of land on that front. So exactly, that's exactly it. And I think where you get held up here is with the 8.8-inch display. That's where 720p starts to look a little. Here, let's try 720p and see what we get. Let's go to graphics, resolution. I'll do 1280 by 800, which I think is the aspect ratio here. All right, and then I got to go full screen, which I did, but it does this. This is like, it does this. And then I got to quit the game and go back into it. Oh, it was there for a second, and then it. I don't think this is the fault of the unit. I think it. Did it just crash again? What happened? No, it's still there. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the screen, which I can't see. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to do apply changes. There we go. Okay, so now we're at, I think, yeah, 1280 by 800, essentially 720p. Yeah, now we're at 60. And you know what? It actually doesn't look bad. It actually looks okay. I mean, it doesn't look as good as it did before, and I think that's the point. Like, on the ROG Ally, this would not look any different. But here, you got a slightly, oops. What is going on here? No, go back. I want to just run. So the controller is now all messed up. There we go. All right, let me start this recording again. All right, there we go. So this is 720p, and we're at 60 frames per second now. So now it's much smoother. And you know what? I mean, you could see it a little less, you know, certainly a lot less detail, but not, it's not offensively less detail. But like I said, if you were on the smaller displays of the ROG Ally, for example, you wouldn't really notice much of a difference at all. But here you'll notice the resolution difference. You know, things are a little foggier, but the frame rate is much better. So 720p or 1280 by 800 is what I have it at here. It seems to be the sweet spot. So there you go. Yeah, I think the Doom game, I should get Doom Eternal loaded up on here. And yep, they do detach. And they do work wirelessly, for sure. So yeah, good stuff. All right, I got more to do on this. I got a good amount of what I wanted to accomplish done this afternoon. I got a few more things I want to do on it. And I really feel like there's going to be like some other big update that I want to wait for. We'll see. So like I said, it's still a little flaky. What resolution am I at now? I think we're back at the normal one here. Like, I have no idea what's going on here. So if I click on this, that's our, oh, that went away. Let me get my, see what happens, it's like a crutch. I go back to my mouse. All right, so now I'm going to go over to the, oops, to this. And this is where you get the updates. But this should be like taking over the display. There it goes. Okay. If I go to Menu, and I go to System, there is an update area somewhere. Maybe not. I remember seeing an option for, maybe it's a different app. I don't know. I'll keep playing with it. Maybe it's up here. There was an option for downloading the updates, but I can't find it at the moment. Here we are. No, that's the game store. I think it's this one. That's the home screen. Let's see. And that's where we were with the settings. Yeah, I will check and see what where the update is. So how hot do the grips get when attached? They don't get hot at all. And if you're talking about like the bottom of it here, yeah, it's actually not even it's not even that hot on the back either. I think it's doing a pretty nice job getting, there's a lot of hot air blowing out the top. Yeah, I got to take the film off of it. Okay, so we should try to get into the BIOS menu here. Let's try that. Pressing the power button plus volume up will bring up the BIOS menu. Okay, so why don't we shut it down real quick? I'll do that before we go, and you can all see the BIOS on this thing. All right, so we hit the power button while pressing volume up. Where is the volume up on this thing? There's a million buttons, but none that say, oh, it's up here, volume up, okay. So I will turn it on with the volume up button. And yes, it provided you have a large enough USB power supply, I think it will charge while you play. All right, so now I'm going to hold the volume up button and hit the power button. There we go. So BIOS, and it doesn't seem to, I use the touch screen. Okay, so BIOS setup. Oh, that's pretty fancy. Look at that. More settings. Configuration. So I'm not sure what I'm looking for on here. In fact, it's got, not only does it have a full service USB-C port, it has two. They are USB 4, and they are 40 gigabit per second USB 4. So there are essentially two Thunderbolt ports on this thing. Ah, the UMA frame buffer is the VRAM amount. So where is that? Okay, so right now it's 3 gigabytes. So should I make this bigger? What should I set it to? I have not. So I guess 6 gigabytes is what everyone says I should do. Make it 6. Yeah, the AIs are after me. I would say like probably a 65 watt should be good. And it comes with a 65 watt one, so that's what I would look at. So 4, okay, so that's why Starfield isn't loading. So let's try 4. And I'll hit F10 to exit. How do I hit F10 without a keyboard? I guess I go back over here to exit. Exit saving changes. All right. So that might be why. But why do I have to jump into a BIOS? Like, that's not very consumer friendly, is it? They should have some adjustment inside of the OS for that, in my opinion. Although maybe you have to do it before you launch the operating system. All right, it is booting. Okay. Bear with me for a second here. And let's see if we can get Starfield to load up now. So it looks like my BIOS is not up to date. And it's funny because I updated the BIOS the night I got it, which was the other day, but maybe there's another BIOS that's come down. So that might impact it. So I don't have RoboCop, but I will look into RoboCop. A lot of people were asking about RoboCop today. That seems to be the hotness of the moment is RoboCop. I love RoboCop, the movie. Is that where they said, I'll buy that for $1? Was that the line on the TV commercials? I'll buy that for $1. All right, so let's see if Starfield will load up now. So before I was getting Starfield to run, but it would crash on me, and I'm still getting this graphics driver issue. So I'm guessing that the BIOS needs to be updated. That might be why some of these things aren't running so smoothly. All right, so let me hit continue. So I've got it like on the basic default settings here, so let's see what happens. Well, that's better. It didn't get this far before. So that's encouraging. So maybe we have some opportunity to get this to work better. Double Dragon Gaiden. Is that like a mix between Ninja Gaiden and Double Dragon? Or is it like a crossover kind of game? All right, here you go. Oh yeah, look at that. It runs, actually it's running pretty good. Yeah, so this is like on the variable or the dynamic resolution, so it's gonna, yeah, I don't think it's running at like close to 30 frames per second here, but let me go pull up our menu thing. So now it's not coming up. There it goes, oops. Pull up our performance meter. It is now running much better than it did before, so that was the issue. All right, so let me go over to our frame monitor, which is on, except it wasn't on for the game. Oh, it crashed again. It was running and then it crashed. All right, so I'm gonna work on the on the BIOS and see if I can get this to work, and we'll go from there. All right, I got to run. I will be back soon, so set your notification bells, and we'll be back and do this again. And I'll keep playing with this. I want to get it right the first time, so I'm going to keep playing around with it, see what I can figure out. Oh, cool. All right, I'll check out. I like Double Dragon, the arcade game. So, and I want to thank Kenny and Chanflay98 for your super chats, and I will be back before you know it. I don't think it's an OLED display because it's 144 hertz. So I have a link in the video description to the product page on Amazon. And so you can get an idea as to what you got there. And I did update the drivers via AMD, so that I did do. But I will go through it all again and see if I missed anything. So, all right, got to run. I will talk to you all on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.